And it's almost like the SEO stuff has been forgotten about a little bit.
Yeah.
I think it's the best algorithm out there.
It's scary.
It's scary good. It's very intent based. I know you're a content expert, right? The right person, the right time. I checked it probably a month or two later and I had thousands of views on the video. Tons of comments, people saying thank you so much. I've had videos that take off after 6 months, 1 year, a whole year later, it just hockey sticks.
That is so mind-blowing to me because I'm used to Facebook and Instagram. It's like you have a 24-hour shelf life and then you got to feed the beast, right?
I saw YouTube as this new vehicle that I could leverage and grow and use that to transition out of my 9-to-5 career into being an entrepreneur and doing my own thing.
He's generated over 14 million views.
And that was kind of the turning point for me where I just really got hooked on YouTube.
He actually quit his 20-year career in IT to go full-time into YouTube. Welcome back to the Golden Mic. I am here with Mr. Mark Beall. Welcome to the Golden Mic. Welcome back to the Golden Mic. I am here with another episode from Vegas. We're doing a bunch, but I'm here with Mr. Mark Beall. And before I bring him on and let him say hello, I want to quickly introduce him because he's someone that I've known for a fair amount of time, not overwhelmingly long, but a fair amount of time. He's a client and he has a very fascinating mind. He's got a 20-year background in IT. He actually quit his 20-year career in IT to go full-time into YouTube, and bringing that background of IT, technical, like data systems and all that. Some might think, hey, YouTube, it's not creative and all that. Turns out it actually is really, really helpful in the YouTube space. He's generated over 14 million views on YouTube, a lot of it being in the like very niche, very specific type of places, and we'll get into that. And so I'm very, very excited to talk to him about that and what he's working on and what he's seeing working on YouTube. We're also going to talk about content. We're going to talk about AI and what he's doing with that. I'm also excited to talk to him because he was homeschooled and you do homeschool your kids or don't? You do. Okay. Was homeschooled. He does homeschool. He's got 3 kids and yeah, it'll be a fun conversation. So Mr. Mark Beall, welcome to the Golden Mic. Pumped to have you.
Thanks, Josh. Appreciate being here.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for coming on. How's Las Vegas treating you?
It's good. It's good. And yeah, first time here.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely it's different. It's different than we were expecting. But
yeah, how so?
It's good. I don't know. I think it's a lot of, we expect a lot of people, but I think we're not used to smoke everywhere, right? And so smoke being pretty much permeating the air in hotels and everything, it's just a little bit to get used to.
Yeah, for sure. Well, especially with kids.
Well, exactly.
Yeah. Cats, it's interesting. My wife and I love Vegas. So, and I go, it's called Sin City for a reason. But if you come with your spouse, it can be very fun, right? Yeah. But that was before kids. And then we had we had our Willow, and I was like, well, we're not going back to Vegas anytime soon. And then my best friend decided on a Thursday that he was going to get married in Vegas on Saturday and propose Saturday morning and get married Saturday night. And so we did a 36-hour trip or something like that to Vegas and brought our baby with us. And so that was interesting. Yeah, Vegas with a kid is very different than Vegas with not. But anyway, we're here for FHL, and I'm excited to chat with you because you have a very interesting mind and you have a background in YouTube. So I want to turn it over to you. Give me a little context. Who are you? Like, how do we get here?
How do we get here? Yeah, so it is kind of weird, right? I'm an IT person, but I ended up quitting that for YouTube, right? I've always been a logical and creative person. So like that, it was kind of a fit.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
I feel like that's rare.
I think it is a little bit rare. Yeah. I like things like Photoshop and design and all these things. So, I don't necessarily fit the mold in that regard.
Yeah.
But when it comes to YouTube specifically, how I got started with that is, when you're in IT, you do a lot of work that's intangible, right? You do a lot of things that you produce content or you produce information based work, right?
Okay.
And it's not things that you can see. So in order to balance that out, a lot of my hobbies revolve around things that are physical. So like my wife and I would rehab our house, right? So we could like actually see tangible work, things that are getting done.
Interesting.
And my wife was like, when we were going through remodeling our house, she said, well, why don't you film this? Why don't you put it on YouTube? And I said, I don't really want to do that because it's going to take me like 3 times longer to complete a project, right? So eventually,
then you're like an editor.
Yeah. I mean, it's more work.
Yeah,
exactly. So eventually I ended up running into this really bizarre problem. I tried to figure out how to fix it. Basically, we were installing new cabinets in our kitchen, like full on remodeling, right? And there was this one like corner kitchen cabinet that kept, you're supposed to base all of your cabinets in the starting in the corner. And this corner cabinet was just a tube. It wasn't like a box. So it just want to fall over. So it's like, well, how can you like line everything up to something that's not stable? So I did a YouTube search. I looked on Google, I looked on YouTube, try to figure out like how in the world am I supposed to start in the corner when it's not square. And I couldn't find any information on it. I figured out how to like jerry rig it in place, made it work. And I decided, you know what? Since this is something I struggled with, I'm just going to pull out my phone real quick. I'm not going to overthink it.
Right.
I'm just going to film it because someone else might need this help too.
Yeah.
So I did that, published it on YouTube, didn't polish it, anything. And I checked it probably a month or two later and I had thousands of views on the video, tons of comments, people saying, thank you so much. I was running into this problem too. You helped me out here. And that was kind of the turning point for me where I just really got hooked on YouTube because I realized that there was another mechanism, another way for me to be able to reach people and help them. And it just kind of stuck. So that's kind of where my fascination with YouTube came in specifically. And it just went from there.
Interesting. Well, that would point to the fact that YouTube is search-based
Yes.
intent, right?
Yes, very much so.
I will tell you, I did not start there. Like SEO, anything like that was like such a foreign concept to me. Funny story, actually, considering we're at FHL. I was teaching someone how to set up Facebook groups one time, and someone was like, I already have the name. It was ClickFunnels. And I was like, anybody can name their group anything. And he's like, nah. And so I just created a Facebook group called ClickFunnels 2.0. I did nothing. I like zero other things. I just did it. I didn't put a cover photo. I didn't do anything else. And that was 7-8 months ago. And when we were coming to FHL, I got a notification that's like, it was like, so-and-so is posted in 2.0, but it was like, you as an admin. And I'm like, I'm not an admin of 2. And dude, I kid you not, this is crazy. In 7 months, let's see, ClickFunnels 2.0, it has 1.3 thousand members in it.
Really? So are you posting content in
Nothing.
there? Nothing.
Zero.
Okay. Yeah.
Zip.
Yeah.
But like people are posting in there and all that, and I'm the only admin of it. I have not done any. And it was like for the first time something clicked in my brain. I was like, oh, that's what SEO does. Right? That's what, and it sounds like that's what you were talking about there. It's very similar. Yes?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It's very intent based. I mean, I know you're a content expert, right? So we kind of come from two sides of the same coin, so to speak.
Define content expert.
I think of content like you cut your teeth on Facebook, you cut your teeth on Instagram, right? And so you kind of know that interest-based model, or what I like to call it interest-based model, where you're designing content that's getting in front of the right person. It might not be the right time, but you know that that content will get served up by the algorithms to people that have that.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, I wouldn't consider myself an expert. I do it, but yeah.
Okay.
But no, I agree. I see what you're saying. Okay, continue.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And so certainly there's that element to YouTube as well, right? You've got suggested videos that come up all the time based off of what Google knows about you, and not just YouTube, but like Google knows about you. So like they know what search or what websites you go to, what searches you do, all these things. So that's definitely one part of it. But another piece of it too is the intent side, which is the SEO. It's the searches. So it's getting the right content in front of the right person at the right time. So it's that third element, that different dynamic to content that not a lot of people are used to, which is really fascinating to me because.
Wait, sorry, what was the first one is what?
For right person, right content, right person, right time.
Oh, right. Okay. Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay. Yep.
And I think it's really interesting because, when I first started with the internet, like I used to create websites like ad hoc, or not ad hoc, but like I used to develop websites on the side, freelance work. And that was one of the big things that we would try and do is do the SEO game and try and rank for keywords and all these things.
Yeah.
And that kind of, I mean, it's still there, but that kind of went by the wayside once, Instagram and Facebook and that content game really started up full force. And it's almost like the SEO stuff has been forgotten about a little bit.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And I think even more so, like, I think if you mention SEO to people, I think they recognize what that is for the most part. Or at least they've heard it.
They think that, right.
But when it comes to content and SEO, I think there's a disconnect there, right? Because not all platforms have that search capability.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And also, I think that part of the reason that it was left by the wayside is because, like with content, it was just speed. You grow so much fast. I mean, you grow so fast, right? You watched, you have the Logan Pauls and, people like that grew to like 20 million subscribers in a year, right? But even just, me with Instagram, right? But even with that, it's interesting now that you say that because a lot of what I was doing was SEO, like there was tagging and it's interesting.
Yeah.
So okay, we need to get into this, but back up just one real quick. How did you go from like it's one thing to post a video on YouTube and get some views. It's a whole other thing to like quit your 20-year career and go like what? How did that jump happen?
Yeah. So I think it was a series of events. One of the things that happened was the YouTube channel was growing. It was gaining momentum. But it was becoming really hard for me to focus on that and learn about business and marketing and all these things that I was weak in at the time. As I was, in my IT career, I was on a leadership trajectory at my work. So I went from when I first started 20 years ago, I was like a help desk tech, and I moved up to analyst, and I went from analyst to team lead to manager to like associate director by the time I left. And my boss was trying to prep me to replace her. And she said, I didn't have a degree at the time. I didn't have my bachelor's degree. And I ended up going to night school and getting my degree that way while raising a family, while being at work. And there was this pivotal moment that happened, which was I went and I got my bachelor's degree. I walked the stage. I finally like completed this lifelong thing that I thought I might never do, right? I walked the stage on a weekend. Monday morning, I came in and talked to my boss. I said, "Hey, I did it. I got my bachelor's degree." I'm like on cloud nine, right? Because that's a big
Right.
accomplishment, right?
Right.
And she goes, "Oh, that's great. When are you going back for your master's?" And I was like, "Are you serious? Like, really?" And she looked at me. She goes, "Yeah. I mean, if you want to replace me eventually, you need a master's degree." I was in a university environment,
Yeah.
so of course she was right, but it made me realize that that's not the path I wanted.
Yeah.
Right. And I've always had this kind of entrepreneurial spirit. Like
Yeah.
I did freelance work on the side for web development
Yeah.
and things like that. And so I saw YouTube as this new vehicle that I could leverage and grow and use that to transition out of my 9 to 5 career into being an entrepreneur and doing my own thing.
Okay. And so like what was the first like how'd you replace your income?
Basically two things. One was the ad revenue from all the views that you get,
Yeah.
when videos play. And the other one was, affiliate marketing, just selling products
Yeah.
on the back end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, to get ad revenue, I mean, you have to generate a decent amount of views with that too. And it's I do want to talk about the concept of content, the different types of content that we were talking about there, because I think one of the things that well, I said this in a couple of my other podcasts, but I think it's a good refresher for those of you that are listening. When I started in the online space, 2016, 17-ish timeframe, right around in there, like I didn't know anything. And then I just did what was working, but I didn't know I was following a model, right?
Mhm.
And so then you like kind of ride the wave up, and I caught it early. And so
Yeah.
I thought it was hard, but it was not, right? It was actually quite simple, right? And even though I was making it hard, just because I was new. And so, in recent times, now that stuff has shifted. I mean, the last 18 months to 2 years. I mean, you felt it. Everyone
Yeah.
had, right?
Yeah.
It's just shifted. It's different. It's like when stuff starts to not work, and then you go do the things that have always worked, and they don't work. You're like, wait a second, right? Like, well,
Mhm.
like, right? And like, fortunately for me, like, I was able to figure out like I have a knack for sales and things of that. Like I was able to figure that out pretty quickly. But I realized that if I wanted to scale, or if I wanted to duplicate myself, like multiply me, if I wanted a team, if I wanted to do anything that didn't require me, like they're physically doing the effort, like there had to be models, right, to follow. And content is the name of the game in the online space, right? It's just like how you communicate. It's like when people are like, I don't want to do content. I'm like, no, it's not like, oh, content, like a sexy. It's just like it just is. That's
Right.
how you. It'd be like, oh, I want a house, but I don't want the land. It's like, no, it just what do you mean? It just is. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so understanding the different types of content, I think is I think you said it. Like most people don't even realize that there's a difference, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think with I see it as two big buckets, right? It's intent based content. It's the stuff that people are looking for, right? This the search engine style content, and it's the interest based content, right? And I think if you think of it like a funnel, the interest based content is like the top of the funnel. Like it's the broad. You're casting your net out. You're trying to attract as many people as possible that has that interest, right? But when it comes to the intent focused content, you're really trying to tip tip the scales in the way of conversion and actually getting them to act and
Yeah.
you know, take an action, move in that direction versus just getting their attention, right? So I think both types of content is important, but I think people over focus and overemphasize the interest-based content, which is, starting with people that are way back far away from being able to convert and thinking that's the only thing that they need in order to make those conversions happen, which I mean, it can happen, but it's not the right end to focus on. Like to think of creating content and really building anything online is you should you should think about it as building it backwards and building it with the end goal in mind first, and then working your way back from that. You always want to have some place for someone to be able to land to take that next step versus saying producing a lot of content because a lot of people do this. They'll create a lot of content and then they won't have any place for those people to go. I mean, you've heard of influencers getting really big and they won't have anything to sell.
Yeah.
They won't be able to collect email addresses. Like they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, that
Right.
one girl, she had like 1.2 million followers or something like that, and she partnered with a t-shirt company, and they did the launch. I think she sold 40 shirts.
Mhm.
That is wild,
That is wild.
right?
Yeah.
But what? Sorry, I'll keep going on that.
No, yeah, I was just saying that I think it's just important to understand the difference between those two. And if I was to recommend someone focus on one type of content over the other, especially if they're first starting out, is to really think about what it is that their ideal person that they're trying to reach. What is it that they're looking for? What is it that they need help with?
Well, okay, let's before we go into that,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
let's back up to like broad strategy for a second. We'll set a frame that we're talking specifically for entrepreneurs, business owners. These are you're creating content with the sake of wanting to monetize, right? Like
Mhm.
that's the purpose, right? We're not just like our passion project or whatever, right? Like that's the goal. Is there essentially two ways to make money? It's either A, through views and you get ad revenue, or B, you sell something.
I think so.
Yeah, I would agree with that,
Yeah.
right? So
Mhm.
that frame, because I think we have to start there, because those are two very different strategies. Like
Right.
we teach the Golden Mike method, right?
Mhm.
And I always tell people, I'm like, okay, look, there's podcasting as an audience tool, and there's podcasting as a networking tool.
Mhm.
You got to know which one you're doing because they're different games, right? Like I have $1 billion network, literally me. Like I know people like have in my phone that I can text and contact whose total net worth is over $1 billion with the crazy connections. And it came from a podcast that's not that big, right? Networking tool, right? And there's people that I also think different theory with 1.5 million downloads and have, people with 10 million audience, right? So it's like, okay, different games, different tools. And so I go, all right, if you're a business owner, do you agree that like an overwhelming majority of business owners, entrepreneurs, people in the space, like they should not be trying to make money from ad revenue as their business model?
Correct. Yes.
'Cause
Because it's a different business.
It's a creator business.
It's a
right?
creator business.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
It's like, are they trying to grow their existing business or are they trying to be an influencer? Right.
Right.
And I think a lot of business owners are trying to become influencers thinking that that's what they need to do in order to grow their business. And it's two completely different models. Yeah.
Right.
I'd agree with that. 100%.
Right. So if you're Joe Rogan, right,
Mhm.
and you want to sell advertising and your customers are advertisers, right?
Mhm.
Or you're an influencer and you're selling sponsorships, great. But that's not who we're talking to. And that's
Right.
not what we're talking. So we're going to rule that bucket out for a second for now and go, okay, cool. The content that we're talking about is we're talking to entrepreneurs, talking to business owners, talking to people that want to monetize by selling something, right?
Mhm.
This is what you're talking about. It's like, what are you selling? What's the end goal of where you're trying to send people to? Is that yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with that, pick up from there and you go, when you say, where should people start? Pick it up from there.
Okay. So yeah. So where they should start would be, say, let's assume that let's take a business model. Let's think of, say you're a mom and pop shop, you just sell locally, right? And you sell
Let's go
well,
online.
actually no, yeah,
go online.
let's go online. Let's think of say you're selling like crafts. Maybe. Okay.
Perfect.
So you're selling crafts on Etsy. Would it be more advantageous to try and attract people that are interested in just crafting in general, or maybe your business is specifically designed to like help people with a specific problem they're having with crafting? Maybe they need to understand how to sell things at a craft show, for example. Okay, the content that person should make would be targeted to the problems that their target audience has. So if they don't know how to where the crafting events are, for example, then that could be a video that would help the audience understand where the craft, like how to get their items in the right locations or how to get them listed on the right places
Okay.
online. I'm trying to think
No, no,
through.
no, no. Okay,
Yeah.
this is good. Okay, so if like, what's the need of the problem? So I'm just trying to draw some contrasts
Yeah.
to those. So like, for example, we'll just use the craft example. If I sell crafts, I could sell completed crafts, right?
Yeah.
I could teach people how to do crafts, and I could sell a craft kit, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Or I could teach people that are already doing crafts how to sell their crafts, right?
Correct. Uh-huh.
So in one, if I were selling or if I were teaching people how to sell their crafts, I would make content on where to find the shows and how to list it and things of that nature, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And then I would sell a service or a course or something on the process of going and doing that. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. If I were teaching people, if I had a product that I was selling, which was like a craft kit, then I would create content on here's how to go and create really cool crafts. The first thing you need is supplies. Oh, by the way, I have, right?
Yes. Exactly.
Okay, great.
Yep.
And then if I were selling already done crafts, like unique, like things like that, the content I would create is
I would think,
showcasing it.
I'd say showcasing it, but then you enter this realm of it's not really a problem. It's not necessarily like you end up having to cast a little bit broader net for something like that, right? Because you'd have to figure out like what specific type of crafts are you making, right?
Yeah, but it's like the problem, it would be like, why would I buy a craft? It would be like, I'd buy a craft because either I love it or
Right.
B, I buy the craft because I need to fill the hole in the wall. Like I need to like decorate.
Yeah.
Right. And so it would almost be like, design.
Right. And see, I'm trying to think like on that specific scenario, it almost would, I don't know if it might be a better model to do an interest based
With that one?
campaign. Yeah. Because I'm trying to think of like, what would the angle be? Because with intent based content, you're trying to figure out what people are looking for. So if you were doing something very specific, I know this wouldn't be great, but if it was like Disney characters or something like that, then you could, position content around those things. But then you also like, it's an interesting dynamic.
No, it would, but you're right. Because if it was interest based, or if it was interest based content, that's one thing. But if we're talking YouTube and we're talking intent,
right?
What I would actually search in if I was going to buy that is how to decorate, like interior design, or how to decorate a
Yeah,
that would come up.
The broader picture, not just that specific thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Yep.
So that's one example of a physical product. Let's say you have an online agency, right? Or an online, service that you sell, right? Maybe it's funnel building or websites. Maybe it's I don't know, ebook writing. Maybe it's, what else is there? Podcast editing services, video, whatever.
There's all kinds
right?
of,
Any of that. It's like, okay, what most people think is that they need to create broad and interest based. And you're saying not that.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. If I'm going into, I gotta figure some stuff out here. Let's say I have no audience. I'm starting fresh on YouTube, right? Or fresh with content. I think where I have always started, and maybe this is wrong, is I go, what platform do I want to go and build on? But perhaps that's the wrong question. Is the question, rather than what platform, is it instead what type of content do I need? And then what platform is best? Like, where would you start? Like, if you had any, like, I'm a service provider. I know how to do video editing really well, or I know how to do, I'm trying to think of a non-content service. I know how to build, I know how to do Zapier integrations. I set up text and automations. Okay.
Yeah.
I've got no following. I've got no list. I'm out there and I'm great. Or I do, that. Where do you start? Like, how do you decide what type of content to put out? Because I think that's the issue, right? I think when people get into content, they just go, I don't even know. Like, I don't even know. Like, what do you mean content? Because it's hard. It's not exciting for a lot of people. It's not, they're not natural on camera. It's like, they only want to do it if it's going to make them money, right? They like, where do you even begin?
Yeah. I think understanding what your end goal, again, going back to that, is very important, right?
Okay.
So if your goal is to do conversions, and you want to actually make sales, and you don't want to necessarily attract everyone and cast a wide net, then the only place I know that can really get down to that level and target those people specifically is YouTube, right? Because everything else is a broader net, in my opinion. Like Instagram,
from
Facebook, TikTok,
from a visual perspective, you mean?
from like you're usually on those platforms because you're killing time or you're just interested, like it's mindless activity. When if you had a service where you're selling Zapier services, you're integrating things, to me that just reeks of someone has a problem,
Right.
right? So they're not going to go to Instagram and look for content around Zapier integrations, right? That just doesn't make sense. That's not a natural thing. They might come across some content that talks about Zapier, but even if they do, like say you put some content out on Instagram, say the right person comes across it and they're like, they find it, what are they going to say? Are they going to say, "Oh, I need this right now"? They might, but they might also say, "Oh, that's interesting. Next." Right? So you really have to think about the mindset that the person's in when they're on those platforms. And to me, the biggest thing you can do is create content that's around problems that people have, solve those problems, and then have that content naturally lead into that next step that you want that person to take. That's the shortest path in order to getting a conversion for a business. And that could be as simple as signing up for a newsletter. It could be a lead magnet. It could be going to my store and purchasing a product. If you're solving a problem for someone, not only are you getting that information in front of them that they need, but you're also building that trust factor up very, very quickly.
Okay, Google owns YouTube, so they're the same.
Yes.
Google is written for this conversation, and YouTube is video.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Yes.
they're both intent though,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
So if I wanted to do written, I would just do a blog per se, right?
Mm-hmm.
That would be the type of content I'd create,
Yeah.
right?
If you
And
want,
then
yeah.
video would be YouTube. So that's actually a really good argument for it. I've never thought about that way because I'm like, but Instagram is I get views, but it's like yeah, but that's that's top of funnel.
Right.
Okay, so if I'm gonna go and I have a starting point of content from the very get go, the first thing is you go, where am I sending them? Well,
Mm-hmm.
who's my customer, right?
Right.
And then what's the purpose of my content? Or like, what am I trying to get them to do? Like, where am I
Right.
sending them? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
So we'll use me as an example. So I was like, all right, my customer is an online service provider, uh, professional. They sell their skills and services online, agency, stuff like that. And they have a problem, which is they don't know the right people. They are basically nobodies usually, right? They don't have a network, and they don't make enough money, right? They need more clients. But really, the actual issue, the reason that they're not making enough money is they don't know the right people, right?
Right.
So if I go to Instagram, that's great if I'm like have a bunch of followers and like can have the right thing and be like play the but if I'm gonna run a business and just sell a service like that's gonna help them go and solve that problem, you're saying, hey, well that's great, but don't start there. Go to YouTube. Okay. This is good. So now I'm on YouTube and I go, all right. Right. I go, well, I want them to book a call.
Right.
Do I create content that is going to educate them and then like ask them to book a call? Do I create VSLs? Do I create like what's the like give me a broad understanding of what I'm trying to do? I guess what I'm asking is I don't have a lens or a frame yet on how to use the YouTube platform as a whole rather than just through an individual like through the lens of an individual video, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for context, grew up in the Instagram boom, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I was trying stuff, like serving tables at Olive Garden, right? And then Instagram went like took off, and I'm like, wow! And we grew 7 million followers, right, for clients and all that. And so but I knew the Instagram platform, and then because Facebook bought Instagram, I knew the Facebook platform, particularly like groups.
Mm-hmm.
And so I understood big picture, not a singular piece of content, right? Like I understood big picture how to use the Facebook platform from a group standpoint and what Facebook wanted. And I knew how to get it to promote me. I knew how to keep things engaged. I knew when, I knew how, all of that. Right.
Right.
And so when people are like, well, what do I post? I'm like, I don't even know how to answer that question because like you're asking the wrong question. Instagram's just a content machine. Like you just feed it, right? Like it's a volume. It didn't even matter. Like you just volume, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like 4 times, or it's like every 4 hours on the dot. This was back in the day when it was like it didn't even matter if it was crappy content, just feed it and you grow, right?
Right.
So I knew how to play that game. And then I get on YouTube and I'm like,
Right.
right? Like you
Right.
just nothing makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. So like from a from that perspective, give me help me walk through that.
Yeah, so I think you touched on it earlier on when you were describing it, right? You mentioned a bunch of different problems that people have, but you said, but really their issue is what? What was that issue? It was
They
getting
don't know the right people.
they don't yeah,
They don't
they're
have,
not getting the
yeah,
right people,
yeah,
right?
they don't have a network. They don't know the right people. They're not in the right rooms. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So basically what you would do is you would take you would figure out what those surface level problems are.
Mhm.
Like I'm not making enough money, I'm not, those things that are keeping people up at night. You create content around those problems that they're looking for answers with. And then throughout your content, like you answer those questions, right? But you lead them to your specific solution. You basically do. I'm gonna have to throw in another one of my coaches here because he gave me this idea.
Yeah.
His name's Roland Vanetta, and he calls this the problem switch, right? So he sees it as kind of a precursor to the opportunity switch that Russell talks about. And so the problem switch is really that framing, that changing that mindset of someone from this is my surface level problem that I need help with. And throughout that content, you're positioning it and saying, well, that's great, but do you want a band-aid or do you really want to fix the root cause? And the root cause is this.
Okay, but hold on though.
Yeah.
You're still we're too deep for a
Okay.
second.
All right. All right. I
Okay,
do that. Yeah.
no, but this is everyone that knows their stuff, right? So zoom out. You're talking about in the video.
Yeah.
I'm like, no.
Okay.
Not individual video for a sec. I need to understand the platform because, for example, Marley Jax. I remember she said one time she was like, I did this video. I think it was on Canva or something. I don't know. And she posted it on there, and it got nothing for 3 years.
Mhm.
And then it got
Then
after 3 years, it was 175,000 views.
Right.
And I'm like,
yeah, dude,
it does that is so mind blowing to me because I'm
Right.
used to Facebook and Instagram. It's like you have a 24-hour shelf life,
Oh, yeah.
and then you got to feed the beast,
Yeah.
right?
It's not that.
Okay. So I go, okay, but now let me ask you:
Uh-huh.
if I create one video, just one, and I publish it on YouTube, and I do nothing else,
Mhm.
nothing else, literally one video, and that's the whole channel, could that one video pop off?
It could. It could.
But you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah,
How I'm
yeah.
like, wait, hold on now, because
Yeah.
I'm like,
Okay.
see the overarching structure. I'm like, what is the game? Because it can't just be I create a video, because then it's just like a VSL.
Right.
And I'm like, that's not it. That
Right.
can't be it.
Right.
And I think that's the thing with YouTube where I'm like, I know it's about search, but do the videos, is there a strategy? Is there you do some short, some long, you do some for immediate, some for long term? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't have that.
Yeah, I think the problem with YouTube is YouTube is a platform that's mixed, right? It is intent-based content, right?
Right.
And that's what makes it unique, but it does have the interest level content with it as well. And I think that's a very confusing part to it. So, Gerald Eves, he's a big YouTuber,
Yeah.
he's Mr. Beast's partner.
Yeah.
He talks about how, and I thought he said it really well, is that when it comes to the interest-based content, YouTube doesn't push your content out to people. YouTube, let's see, how do you say it? He said that the algorithm pulls it for the user, right? So it's like a reverse algorithm. So it doesn't once you publish
okay,
something,
no, I
it doesn't
understand
say, okay, let's see who's going to watch it, who's going to, how's it going to perform? It doesn't necessarily do that. It could actually say, oh, this person I know is interested in this topic, so I'm going to put that in front of them and see how they react to it, or it's the intent.
Well, it almost
search.
knows.
It knows, yeah, it does know. I think it's the best algorithm out there.
It's scary.
It's scary good, yeah. And I think that's one element to it. But back to your point too, talking about Marley and how her video went,
Right.
blew up after a while. I've had the same thing. I've had videos that take off after 6 months, 1 year, a whole year later, it just hockey sticks. And I think, I have theories about how that happens, but I think in general, YouTube, they make their money based off of the users being happy. They want people to be on the platform as long as possible so they can have more ads to present in front of the person, so that way they make more money, right? So I think they're very cautious about putting new content in front of people when they don't really have a good test base to understand how it's going to perform against other content that's similar. Okay? Because they're really protective of their revenue streams. So if you have a video that you put out and say you have 0 subscribers, right? It's very high risk for YouTube to promote that to people, right? Because it doesn't know how it's going to perform, right? It's all database with
Right.
YouTube.
So if it happened to be like the only video on a trending, like a topic that trended or whatever, it might.
Yeah.
But like,
It could get picked
it
up.
could
Yeah,
be.
for
Right.
sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But if you say had a channel with 1 million subscribers and then you put out a video, well, what's a very low risk for YouTube? The YouTube algorithm is to put your video that you just published in front of all the subscribers of the people that haven't, like, they know that those people like your content, right? So it's a very low risk test for YouTube to see how it performs at a certain level and then scale it up from there and then start pushing out broader and broader from an interest based perspective, or from an interest based perspective. And we've shifted gears from the intent based stuff more so to the interest.
But it's like,
side.
it's almost like the intent is, it's for first, but then it's like the recommended, the next in the feed, like is like intent. I mean, it's like an interest, like it's filtered through the interest. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
And there's multiple algorithms too with YouTube, right? There's 5 different algorithms.
Oh boy. All right. Tell me.
So I'm not sure if I'm going to keep this straight, but
Okay.
Daryl Eves again talks about this. There's the search based algorithm. There's the algorithm that does the suggested right videos. There's the algorithm for the browse feature, the things that show up on your homepage when you first join. Like, there are all these different algorithms kind of working in concert to produce and put the right content in front of the right person at the right time. I don't know how they keep all that straight, quite frankly.
Yeah.
But once you watch a video, like, those other videos that show up on the side that they suggest, that's a whole other algorithm, right? Because you watch this one video, and probably because you watched it for a certain amount of time, they know that you might be more likely to watch these. It's just fascinating how they figure this all out. And they've spent a lot of time too working on just on the homepage to make sure that when they're serving you up content, it's not just content from your subscriptions. It's content that they know you might be interested in.
Yeah. It's
right?
so funny. If I log into YouTube in the morning, the first thing that pops up is Miss Rachel, because my daughter watches Miss Rachel sometimes in the morning. But if I log in at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Miss Rachel's never there.
Right.
Crazy.
Yeah. You know how much data that is on every person? That it's huge.
Privacy is a myth. Okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist. Right. I always laughed with the 2016 election where it was the Cambridge Analytica right thing. And they're like, whatever they like followed you around based on your searches and whatever. Can you believe it? I'm like, that's what we do
That's
every
normal.
day. Like, what do you mean? Like, such a foreign concept, right? So,
is that helpful?
This is very helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, at least for nerds like me, that like I think for people that actually want to understand it, yeah, do right. A way to think through it. Well, let's do it this way, because I think here's how I try to understand things. I'm in sales. I like selling things because I like making money. And the reason I think that it is helpful, like, I view sales very differently than most people view sales. I view sales as, well, I use this analogy, for example, with Kristen Rushman on the last one. It's like, I love my Tesla. I drive a Tesla. I love it. And like, out of everything that I make a payment on, that's probably the only thing where I'm like, make me triple. I have no problem paying that. So what? Because I love it. Right. And so to me, sales is, if someone's going to buy, if I'm going to sell something, the amount of money that I can get someone to pay for something is a direct reflection to how big of a problem it is that they have, or how much is going to improve the quality of their life, even if that's feeling emotional or an actual problem. Right. And so to me, it's like, if I'm going to go sell something, it is, in order for me to sell it without like being like a used carsman slimy, like in a good, genuine way, right? Is I have to I have to be able to present it in a way that makes sense to someone. And that is like, oh, yes, they see it's useful, and it's like makes them feel good about themselves, increase their status, all that, right? So to me, sales is a very useful tool for learning. Okay. So when I think about something like this, I go, all right, dude, here's how I understand it. Can I what you just described? If I were to package this as a service and sell it to me, what would I sell me? Does that make sense?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like, because if I'm a business owner, you're a business owner who's listening, right? And you're like, the only reason I would be on YouTube, for a majority of people, yeah, like some of us think it's fun, right? We want to document our thoughts and all that, right? But like, from a business perspective, is if it makes me money. Right? Because people with money like to make money, and I'm only going to invest in something if it's going to make me money. And the problem with YouTube and SEO in general, tell me if you agree, is that it's perceived that it's going to take a long time before it pays off.
Right.
It's not going to make me money right now. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Would you agree?
I would agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the perception. I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying that's the perception.
Yeah.
Okay. So I go, okay, if what you're telling me is the case, I go, this is good. How do I use it? Okay. Well, I use it if I would buy it, then I would use it. So how would this be presented to me in a way that I would buy it? And the only way I would buy it, if I'm a business owner, is if it's going to make me money. If there's a direct correlation to when I get my money back. I learned this from Brad Gibb, right? Brad Gibb and I mean, we've done lots of business together. I think he's paid me over $350,000 and I've made him several million, right? And when I asked him, I was like, what goes through your head? Like, you already trust me now, but like when I sell you something new, like what goes through your head? And he goes, well, that's easy. The first thing is I go, when do I get my money back? Right? That's the first thing that he's looking for. And I'm like, take away risk. Okay, got it. So I go, with this, how do I make money with it? How would I package this in a way to where I could correlate it? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So what's the order? Like if you were to sit down and like, do you sell a service on this? Like with this stuff?
I mean, I'll do coaching. I've done coaching before with YouTube. Yeah.
Do you do it as a service at all?
No,
Okay.
not really.
So let's pretend you did. Okay.
Okay.
Let's pretend you had a service. Let's go through this exercise because this will be helpful for me. I think it'll for a lot of the people too. If you were to sell a service on this and the goal was, I'm coming to you to say, hey, I know I need to create content. I'm your potential client right now. I go, I know I need to create content because that's the name of the game. I'm on social media. I have an online business. And content sounds expensive. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right? Because like a YouTube video, I go, if I'm not using it as a networking tool, because that's easy. It doesn't matter. Right. But like if I'm using it like you're talking about, I'm like, I got to write thumbnail and SEO and transcription and like I got to cut up the video and like that just sounds like a lot of work and work equals expense. Right?
Yeah.
And I go, I need to make money with it now or as quickly as possible. I need it to pay for itself. I'm okay with putting up some money, but I need to pay for itself.
Yeah.
How does that work? Like start me through the process of where we start and what we go through, like to make money.
Yeah. So I do have to say that when I think about YouTube, I don't think about it as necessarily an immediate return. Okay. I think of it as more of you're creating assets that can live on, that can produce you income over time. All right.
Okay.
So I guess the best analogy I have for that is if you were to go buy an investment property, say you're going to buy a vacation rental property, would you expect that to cash flow immediately, or would you expect that would start to cash flow maybe a year or two or a little bit further down the road?
Well, probably cash flow immediately, but it wouldn't.
Like
I wouldn't be in profit.
Profitable, right? That's what I mean.
I wouldn't
profitable.
be. It would have to. It'd probably take 10 years before it would pay itself.
Right. But would you be okay with that? Yes. So if you look at creating content on YouTube as an asset, right? I think that, like I said, over time it can take, not every video is gonna hit a home run, right? But the more content you produce on it, the more chances you have at hitting that home run with a piece of content. And every piece of content that you make on YouTube is an asset because it does live on indefinitely. Versus regular content, I call it regular content, like with Instagram and Facebook. You said it earlier. Once you create that piece of content, if it doesn't perform immediately, it's done. You just have to create it again. It's like writing. It's just like creating waves, right? You could create a piece of content that catches a little wave, or you could create a piece of content that generates a huge wave. But eventually that content will fall off. I have to tell you this, like all my revenue, well, most of my revenue is through YouTube right now, right? We've been away from the house. I can't create my main YouTube channel is home improvement YouTube channel, right? We can't create home improvement content right now because we don't have a house, right?
Yeah.
But guess what? My income is fairly stable because it's continuously being served to those people that have the intent. Like it's actually helping people right now. YouTube knows and understands that, and it's not a wave. It's just a constant flow. It's not perfect. Like it's not like a flat line. It goes up and down, but it's fairly stable. So that's to me the way. If I were to sell you on a service with YouTube, I want to make sure to set the expectations that it's not a immediate return, but it will be a long-term return. And the content that you're creating today, even if it doesn't take off in the beginning, it doesn't mean it won't 6 months to a year down the road.
Okay. Very helpful. And can I tell you, when you tell me that analogy or the example of like the investment property, I'm like, it half works and it half doesn't. Okay. And here's what, no, but this is really good because if we can figure out, because I bet you've presented this to like explain this to people before and they're like, that makes sense. Not interested because, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's why, at least what's going on in my head. But this is really helpful. I can analyze a property and I can know with a stupidly high degree of certainty that it is going to produce income. I'm going to know when, I'm going to know the amount because I'm like, it's a physical asset. I know the tenant is going to pay this much because of, the comps around it. Like I can look at historical, like I can know because I'm not having to create it. I'm buying an asset that's already fully ready to produce. It'd be like, it's like this. If I were buying a YouTube channel, then your analogy is perfect.
Right.
Because it's already created, right?
Yeah.
But you're asking me to do something that I suck at because I've never done it. And you're telling me that it's going to produce. And here's the thing. I believe that I know that you know it will because you've seen it. Like, and you know roughly what to expect, right? But it's like the first time I ever invested in real estate, dude, I was terrified. Like the concept of having debt. I'm like, that was the most scariest thing in the world. And then, Brad's over there like, debt is the asset. I'm like, my brain is broken, right? You know what I mean? I'm like, but it's a different world, right?
Right.
And so I go, okay, going back to this, if you tell me that, I go, but how do you know it's going to work? And then you go, well, not all of them are home runs. I'm like, well, what if like I'm the one that doesn't get any home? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And so I go, if we want to sell this, because I think you're right. I think that's the correct way to look at it. Because anyone promised, it's like Damon Burton, right? With SEO, he tells his clients, he's like, you're not going to see a return on day one, but I will show you progress. Like you'll go from page 8 to 7 to 6 and here's the time. And he offsets the uncertainty with certainty, right? And he's like, no, I can tell you with absolute certainty, like you can count on this. You can make decisions off of this. You can have certainty in this. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So let's assume that what you're saying is correct, because I believe it is. And I go, yeah, there's still a lot of uncertainty here. And I'm dumping money into something that's like, it's just kind of a pit until it works. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
How do I offset that? Like, what can I do to generate, what can I do to generate a return now with content?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, one thing that you could do is if you already have an existing like email list, audience or whatever, once you're creating content, you can not only depend on the YouTube algorithm to push it out, but you can get it in front of your people through other mechanisms as well, right? There's some debate whether or not that's good for the algorithm or not. But here's the thing is if the people that you're selling to is your ideal audience and you're making content to serve them, I personally don't see any reason why you can't leverage as many channels as you can in order to get the views and maximize your exposure. I think the other part of it is I think if you have someone that does have the experience, that knows what to look for, it can analyze the signals and the signs, help you understand what type of content to make, what to say, those kinds of things. I think your level of certainty goes up considerably versus just saying, make content, good luck, right?
Yes.
So I think the coaching element to that is key. And I think also too, with creating content, it's interesting because yes, you can make like content as a service in ways, but if it's not 100% automated, like if you're the face of the content, you're going to be involved in the service is helping make sure you succeed as best as you can versus like I can't create Josh Forti content myself, right?
Okay, define success.
Success would be basically an ROI, giving you the exposure you're looking for, getting you sales, getting you leads.
But what are those? Is it when you say succeed, if I'm not going to see an immediate ROI, I promise you I'm going to figure it out a way and I'm going to explain it to you so that you can go sell it because I'm like, you have what you're talking about. But let's assume that. What are the other, when you say help me succeed, I go, is that views? Is it subscribers? Is it watch time? Is it lead generation, like opt-ins? Is it custom? What?
It'd be lead generations and sales. Yeah. Those are the elements that I look for.
Okay.
Specifically. If your business is an actual business and you're leveraging YouTube to grow the business. Now, if you were a content creator, it would be the views and subscribers and all those things, right? Those would be your metrics because you're trying to get as many eyeballs on your content as possible because you want the ad revenue to be there, if that makes sense. Obviously, in an ideal situation, you'd have a mixture of everything. You'd have tons of exposure. You'd have tons of conversions. It would be an ideal situation. But
I think you're in a unique position where like you have enough views that it's like undeniable that you know what you're talking about, right? It's like, okay, it's like you literally live off of it, right?
Right. Yeah.
So it's like, and you're not Mr. Beast. Someone can look at you and go, well, if you can do it, like, how'd you figure that out? Like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so it's like, we don't live in an ideal world, right?
Right.
We will, but until then, we don't. So the thing of like figuring out how to put it all together and like where to start, I think is really helpful for a lot of people. I know it is for me, right? Because I got a business to run. And I loved the days when I could just create content all day. Like creating content is way better than being a business owner, right?
Right.
But it's a soul sucking, like never ending, like you stop creating, you're done, right?
Yeah.
Like you lose your influence.
And I don't live in that world. Like I create content and it just lives on.
That's pretty good. Okay. So why do you love this?
Couple reasons. I like figuring things out. Like I really like to dig deep in things and actually understand why things work. That's one reason. The other reason is I like helping people. Like I like to take what I know and share it with other people and say, oh, like you think it's this, it's actually not. It's actually easier. Like this is the thing you should focus on versus this. Right? I like to help people go from point A to point B. I like to simplify things. If that makes sense. Like I really, really enjoy that. That's going back to my origin story with YouTube, right? That's what really got me hooked in the beginning was I figured out a problem that I experienced myself. I figured out how to rectify that problem in a simple way. And then I shared it with other people and I got comments. I got people appreciating the fact that I took the time to do that to help them. That really motivates me. Like I love doing that. I love to serve people.
Okay. You love to serve people, help serve people,
Mhm.
and you love figuring things out.
Yes.
Interesting. Those are like two very, very high percentage common denominators between a lot of the people that interview that are entrepreneurs.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Right? It's interesting. So you've got 3 kids. You homeschool, right? Yeah, you
Yeah.
homeschool. You were homeschooled. Do you think that you being able to like I think about corporate and it's like soul sucking.
I lived that
like,
for 20 years. Yeah.
You get it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But it's like, do you think there's a broad generic question or a broad question is not complete, but you get it. Do you think you're a better dad as an entrepreneur than you were in corporate? You
100%.
Okay.
100%.
Why?
I can focus more on my kids for one. I can spend more time with them. Like when I came home from my corporate job, my mind was always at work and it wasn't a good, like as an entrepreneur, you're always thinking about business anyway,
It's
right?
impossible not to.
But it's different. Like it's very like this might sound weird, but entrepreneurship is a lot less stressful for me specifically. It was a lot less stressful when I transitioned out of my 9 to 5 job. And I don't know if it was my unique situation. I don't know what
I
it
think it's because
is.
you had more control.
Yeah, I mean, it could be that.
Yeah, because like
Could
it
be
was
that.
stress. A lot of times will come from not control. Like
I
if
do
you
like control.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. And I think too, I mean, a lot of work is I had a project manager that worked for me. And one day she said something about we were turning up a new project that we were all excited about. And I like implementing new things, right? I like figuring out how to, make things better, right? And she said something to me. She said, okay, well, we're just about done with this project. And she goes, as soon as we're done, she goes, it'll be easy. It'll just be like washing dishes. And I said, I hate washing dishes.
Yeah.
like I don't want to do that. Like, let's find another project to implement. I mean, it's just not my thing, right? So I think in the corporate world, there's that. I think there's the politics, like navigating politics is just soul sucking.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
Well, I think and I'm not trying to bash corporate. I do that enough, right?
Yeah.
I do that, but it's in corporate or in things when you're not an entrepreneur, it's far less about the actual thing, and there's so many other factors,
Right.
Like you talk with politics and like all that.
Yeah.
With entrepreneur, it's like about the thing, right?
Right. And I think it takes a different personality too, right? I
Yeah.
don't think everybody could be a good fit for entrepreneurship.
No.
I used to think that,
Me
but
too.
I don't anymore.
Yeah.
And I also think that, if you're an entrepreneur and you're going into a corporate environment, like they're just two separate environments. And if you're in the wrong position, it's just not going to be a good fit and you're going to suffer for it.
Do you, objectively speaking, do you think you spend more or less time with your kids overall? Not when throughout the day, but just pure hours, more or less time as an entrepreneur or when you were in corporate?
More. It's more time.
No?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I tend to prioritize it more and I think too when I was in corporate, when I had time off, I wanted to just kind of escape more, right? I just wanted to do things like play video games and watch movies and be a consumer. Like I wanted to shut my brain, my mind off. And I think that had an adverse effect with me trying to spend time with my kids too. So
Yeah.
now I don't have that. I'm not trying to escape all the time. so I could be more present with my kids.
Mm.
So even though I'm still spending a ton of time working and doing things, for sure, I feel like I'm spending more time with them, and I know it's higher quality.
Um, one of the things that I think I grew up homeschooled. I was homeschooled too, right? Homeschooling's the best. And for many reasons, but I was homeschooled and then I became an entrepreneur.
Mhm.
So like in my head, I was like, oh, if you're an entrepreneur, obviously you will homeschool. And I just thought every entrepreneur homeschooled at first. And then I realized, well, that's not the case. But I do think it's a much higher percentage,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Oftentimes, right? And that could be for schedule reasons, whatever. I think that when we're talking about like algorithms and data and decision making with like all that, and then also like making people happy, watch times, like all that. Like I think algorithms, the more I study algorithms, the more I'm like, they're just trying to match the human brain,
It's exactly right.
right?
That's it. That's it. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So if that's the case, the better you would understand algorithms, hypothetically, you could understand humans better. That's not always the case because there's the whole emotional part of it, right? But one of the things that I love about like my kid will be my kids will be homeschooled. Flash will have private tutors, but I will be like very hands-on because I'm like, my kids will watch me solve problems. I will be there because I love rapid feedback. And the thing that I was most excited for before I had a kid, about having a kid, was I'm like, I have a literal human that it is my job to program, to train, like to see. I get to see. I taught her to do this, and she did. Like it's feedback, right? And
Mhm.
it's like across a whole life, right?
Yeah.
And so to me, this combination of like business to me, like when people are like, well, what's the number amount? Like, what's the dollar amount that it would take for you to go get a job? I'm like, you don't get it,
Mm.
right? Like you could offer me $1 billion in
Mm.
cash up front if to go work for someone else for the rest of my life. The answer is no.
Right.
And it's not because, oh, what if you had all the freedom to do? I'm like, no, you don't get like it's I can in control, like I can design and do and all right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's no limitations. And for me, homeschooling, same thing with training, like there's so many correlations there, right?
Mhm.
And so a big driving factor for me to be in the business, weird. I didn't think I needed any more motivation. Once I had kids, was I'm like, oh, I got to make this work so that I can like the better I understand this, the better I can understand this, the better I understand this. The better. It was almost
Mm.
like a. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So like, how has kids and homeschooling, like that whole homeschool kids, because your kids are at 17 and all the way down to
Yeah, 17, 14, and 7.
7. Okay, so
Yeah.
you have a decade range, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right. So like, how has that homeschooling kids and all that? How has that changed your approach to business? And yeah, business and content as a whole.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So I have to say, I can't take all the credit for the homeschooling part. That's my wife.
Yeah.
She does most of that,
Shout
right?
out to the moms and the wives.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Um, yeah, so I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing now if it was me trying to do the homeschooling and the business and all that stuff.
Right.
So
Right.
so that's part of it. I think
Yeah, but
yeah, I think it's more by example. It's the element of I'm giving them a different life. Like I'm
Mhm.
giving them more experiences. I'm giving them real world experiences versus just book knowledge, right? And I think just being able to show them that there's a different path in life, because I always thought there was just one path. I mean, really, I know there were like people that could make a lot of money or someone might win the lottery or whatever. But when it came to being able to have a family and make a living and all that, it's really you get a 9 to 5 job. I mean, that's the way I grew up. That's the way most people think, right? And to be able to show my kids that you don't have to do that. Like there's another path. There's another way to make things work. I think is super valuable. Also, like we love to travel. We just do.
yeah.
And to be able to have them homeschooled, we don't have to worry about pulling them out of school. We don't have to worry about all these things. Like, we've been gone for a while, traveling, and they're still able to homeschool. They're getting experience of being in the Southwest for the first time. They've never been there, to this part of the country before. And I think that says a lot too. I think that helps to open up their minds and their development to think a little bit broader
Mm.
versus just thinking like, it's a mundane, here's the routine. You get up, you brush your teeth, you hop on the school bus, go to school and you come back like constantly. That's it. And that
So
all that's
insane.
doing is it's just training people on how they need to behave
Isn't it
in a
insane?
corporate environment. That's
It's
what it is.
insane.
Yeah.
I think something you said there was interesting too, or was really powerful, which was you're the example,
Mhm.
right? And like, dude, I don't care what anyone says, men and women have different roles, right?
Yeah.
And when it comes to parenting, it's no different. And I think as men, fathers, like it more so than the wife, like it is to lead, like you are the example,
Mhm.
right? And like our kid, I have 4 sisters, right?
Okay.
And when my daughter was born, my second oldest sister, they're all younger than me, but like the second one, she called me and she goes, "Make sure that you tell your daughter that she's beautiful every day of her life." And I was like, I mean, I was planning on that, but why? Right?
Mhm.
Because like to me, I'm just like, I would want her to. And she said, because you will always be the most influential person in her entire life. When she said that, I really started thinking about that because I'm like, I gotta love my daughter. My daughter loves her mom way more than she loves me. Like it's not even close, right?
Uh-huh.
Like, and I'm like, so was that statement true? Right?
Right.
And I believe it is because like you're you're the leader, right? Like you're the one that gives permission. Like you're the one that look at girls who have daddy issues and look at how they or no father figure, no strong, right?
Right.
So while the mom might be more involved on a day to day, and I'm not in any way diminishing, so hugely important role, right? Equally
Right.
important. But when it comes to like influential, like your how you lead, right? Like we have such a responsibility, right?
Yeah.
And I think it can be difficult for us as entrepreneurs, as men, because when we want to go and succeed, we
Mhm.
want to go and like our status and ego and things of that nature,
Yeah.
right? And I'm curious, have you wrestled with that at all? Like finding the balance between being dad and like showing your kids an example, like the different life and like and all of that, and
Mhm.
also like being like not getting too wrapped up in it to where you can still be present at home.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always a balance, and that's one thing I've learned throughout life is just balance is the key to everything in general. And I think it's easy to go one way or the other. It's just I think it's human nature. Um, I mean, yeah, I want to get a 2 comma club award. I want to get
Right.
all these things right. Um, but I think also the older I get, the more I realize like the time I have with my kids right now, the time I have to experience everything as a family, especially with the 17-year-old.
Yeah.
I realize that the time is the most precious
I'd imagine.
element compared to the money. Like the money can come later, but
Yep.
when it comes to the time and just the impact that I can have, not just with my family, but with other people as well. I think those are the two big driving factors for me. And I think the money is more of a byproduct than anything else.
What do you mean?
So I think that if you focus on the right things, and I think if you have the right intentions, that and you're solving the right problems for people, like I think if all those things are in alignment, you generating money is just going to be a natural extension of that. Like people say that, if you chase money, it runs from you, right? So I think if you my the way I apply that is if you're actually doing the things that you should be doing and you're trying your best and obviously the right models and all those things, then the money is just going to follow it, right?
Well, it's attracted. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
good. Yeah,
You
it's just
you
going to
don't chase
come.
you quite literally have to attract money.
Right.
Like money's
Right.
gonna like it's money does not. Yeah. If you chase it, it runs away. But if you just do it, you will literally attract it. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Um. Cool. Well, this has been fun.
Yeah.
Um. Couple questions, like couple kind of put a bow on all this because I think we covered a lot of stuff. This was really helpful, by the way. Like the
Good.
YouTube stuff and the content and all that, and 5 different algorithms and like just the way to think about all that. That was really really good. I can't believe it's already been an hour. Um. What's been some of the hard like the biggest challenges that you've faced in trying to like you have a analytical mind and a creative mind, right? And
Mhm.
it's like your gift there. It's like you're gifted here, and business is like 72 things,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
everyone has the thing that they're good at,
Right.
and then it's like then you got to go figure out all the other things too.
Mhm.
What have been some of the biggest challenges for building the business, income, that?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me when it comes to business is specifically there, like you said, there's so many elements to it, right? Um, trying to really, and this is at a broad level, not just YouTube, right?
Right.
Just trying to really wrap my head around and understand everything because I came in from the IT environment where I was sought after to kind of solve problems, and if people didn't know the right answers, then they would look for me to kind of consult and say, okay, well, what if we do this instead? And once I entered the business world, I lost all that. Like I started from scratch again.
Yeah.
And
I feel
that is so frustrating because I want to be the person that understands all the different pieces to be able to say, oh, you're struggling with this. Okay, well, have you tried X, Y, and Z? And that's where I want to get to. Like that's ultimately where I want to be. And this year I feel like I'm really close to that now. Like I feel like obviously you're never
Close to
going to know
yeah, yeah.
everything, but I feel like for most of the things that I've struggled with up until this point, like say for the past 8, 10 years, like really trying to understand business, I'm like, I feel like I've gotten a good handle on this
Yeah.
stuff now. The core, like the foundational things, not necessarily the tactics that come and go, but
Yeah.
like really the core principles, the psychology, those elements. Because human psychology, when you try and really understand why people behave the way that they do, and you're an IT person, those are two completely foreign concepts. Like you put in a code or a command to a computer, it does what you tell it to do. You say something to a person, if you say it with the wrong inflection, it might come off completely differently and you won't get the same result or the result you're expecting, right? I learned that with my wife probably over many years. You say something not the right way and it's like, that's not what I meant. You know what I mean? And so
my wife is, she's like, your biggest flaw is that you're not aware of your tone.
right.
She tells me that all the time. And I'm like, who cares? But she's like, it matters.
right.
And then I listen to myself sometimes, like I'll play back recordings or like a conversation, whatever. I'm like, gosh, I'm an asshole. Right. And I'm like, I'm not trying to be.
Right.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
That's real. Yeah.
So there's that element. I think the other piece of it too is, the income, obviously, having a 9 to 5 paycheck that's stable, that's nice. I do miss that, right?
Yeah.
Because the income comes and goes and
Yeah, up and
there's
down.
ups and downs and all that. But in general, man, I wouldn't trade it. I just
good.
would not trade it.
That's good. That's good. I can't remember who said it. Somebody famous. And they were like, the two most addicting drugs in the world are heroin and a 9 to 5 paycheck. Right. And I'm like, whew, that's real. Right. You kind of have to be addicted to the ups and downs to be an entrepreneur. So, dude, I appreciate your time. Where can I got a couple rapid fire questions, but where can people find you?
You can check me out on my website, contentandfunnels.com. And if you want to get a hold of me, like to have a consult, go to markyourcall.com and you can book a time with me.
That's good. That's good. We'll link those down below. And we'll put his YouTube channel down there as well. Yeah, cool. A couple rapid fire questions. What is one book that you think every entrepreneur should read?
Influence by Robert Cialdini.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's an amazing book.
Yeah, that's really, really good. That was one of my first ones on psychology. I like Persuasion.
Persuasion's good too.
It's really, really good.
I think you have to read the first one first to really
yes,
for it to sink in. Yeah.
Persuasion's, I agree with that actually. That's right. Yeah. Because I feel like influence is like more of like, here's the pieces.
Right.
Here. And then Persuasion is like an application of it almost. Like
right.
That's interesting. Okay. Who's one person that you want to meet before you die? Like celebrity or like famous, like,
Could they be dead?
They gotta be
come on. All right.
No, before you die.
Yeah, before I die.
Yeah.
Famous person. I don't know. I mean,
like your hero type.
I'm gonna ruin your podcast. Probably President Trump, honestly.
Yeah.
Like he's a really love him or hate him.
Yeah.
You just gotta be like mad respect for what he's been able to accomplish.
Yeah. Right. Even if like it's just how. You know what I mean?
Dude, I feel like anyway, we won't get into politics, but yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool. What is one practical, like tactical piece of advice that you would give someone that they can start doing immediately that will significantly improve the quality of their life?
Pull out your phone and record. Create content. Just do it. Just take the action. Like people overthink it way too much. Just do it and you'll get better over time. Like just don't worry about making it perfect. Just create.
What's next for you?
What's next? I'm writing a book that I'm super excited about. So that's going to be a lot of my take on the business world, things that I've learned over the years, my own unique perspectives on it. It's going to be a broad book, which is interesting because I thought the first thing that I'd really, if I was to write a book, it would be about YouTube. But yeah, I just wanted to get a lot of the thoughts out of my head onto paper so I don't have to think about it anymore. It's interesting because I've taken a lot of notes over the years, and for the longest time I thought, man, someone needs to publish this information. I wonder who I could give it to get it out to the world. And I finally had the realization, like, maybe I should just do it.
Yeah.
Like I should just create it. So I'm working on a book. I'm really excited about that. And then, yeah, I don't know. I mean, YouTube obviously is in the future,
Yeah.
but, yeah, I'm just excited for what's next.
Cool. Mark, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. We'll link all his stuff down below. Go check him out. He's a cool dude. And he was homeschooled, so brownie points or fruit bucks. As I like to say. Hey, if you're new here, thank you so much for watching. Consider subscribing if you've been around here for a while. Thank you for watching. As always, hustle, hustle. God bless. Get paid. Be free. We'll see you next time. Peace.